Let me just say, in your opening statement, you noted that last year the State Department announced a memorandum of principles between the United States, Russia, and Jordan that basically included a commitment to, quote, remove Iranian-backed forces, including Hezbollah and other irregular forces. Now, since then, we have seen Iran maintain its land bridge into Syria through Iraq, increase its own and proxy forces deeper into Syrian territory, pushing up to the border with Israel. Meanwhile, Russia has subsequently described Iran's presence in Syria as, quote, legitimate, insists that they never committed to supporting the withdrawal of Iranian forces. Last month, National Security Advisor McMaster indicated that as much as 80% of Assad's fighting force may be provided by Iran, and Iran seems keen on pursuing a land bridge, continuing land bridge to Iraq. So I don't understand. I heard your testimony that you didn't have, that we, the United States, didn't have enough bandwidth. But is it still the policy of the United States to actively remove Iranian-backed forces from Syria?
Senator, it is absolutely our policy to see Syria able to move forward free of all foreign forces, and that specifically includes Iranian forces, fighters brought in from outside Iran to fight with them, and Hezbollah elements.
And so what is, some of us are waiting to see the administration's Iran strategy, to be very honest with you. We have, this Congress gave the administration some rather sweeping authorities with strong congressional approval, many which have not been used yet. Many which have not been used yet. So we're waiting to see what this strategy is. But how can we effectively counter Iran now after essentially focusing elsewhere? It seems that our forthcoming counter-Iran strategy is a contradiction to what we've been doing in Syria. How do you reconcile those? Hezbollah has emerged stronger and as a more viable military force in Lebanon. How's that going to factor into the Iran strategy?
Senator, it was the violence precipitated by ISIS, the chaos that resulted in Syria as a product of that violence and seizure of territory that allowed Hezbollah and other elements allied with Iran to advance their interests and their physical presence. It is why the elimination of the ISIS threat was the critical condition precedent to being able to credibly deal with Iran. But with respect to the borders and to the land bridge issue, we see minimal movement by Iran across land borders, and that is in significant measure a product of our own presence, our own activities, not just on the Syrian side of that border, but also on the Jordanian and, in particular, Iraqi side. And Iraq cannot be eliminated as a critical element in our Iran strategy. We have worked very closely with Prime Minister Abadi, with the legitimate forces of his government in Baghdad to counter Iranian aspirations. And this has been a hard struggle, particularly over the period since the Kurdish referendum.
Right. Now, let me just ask you this. You say there isn't much of a land border, but I would beg to differ that there isn't much or there isn't any. The reality is this is a constant challenge. But let me ask you, I asked you specifically whether it's the policy of the United States to actively remove Iranian-backed forces from Syria. How so? You said, you gave me a generic answer. We don't want to see any foreign entities inside of Syria. Well, Russians are a foreign entity inside of Syria, for example. So specifically as it relates to Iran, if that is the policy of the United States to diminish its influence and to remove Iranian-backed forces from Syria, how so? With force? With troops? With diplomacy? Which one of those?
Senator, it's a combination of measures. First and foremost, it is aggressive sanctioning and measures undertaken by the U.S. and our partners to deny the physical tools, the ability to move assets, and the ability to finance Iran's activities.
When are those going to happen? Because
Senator,
we've given the administration a whole new host of sanctions that they simply have not used. And so if we didn't have the bandwidth then, I certainly hope we have it now, because we're engaged here after the fact. A much more difficult set of circumstances to change the dynamics on the ground as it relates to Iran. So I hope we're going to see the pursuit of the sanctions that we gave. We gave sanctions on ballistic missiles. We gave sanctions on human rights violations. We gave sanctions for the destabilization of the region for promoting terrorism. I have to be honest with you, I haven't seen those used. So it's time to use them.
Senator, I would be delighted to provide you with the list of designations and sanctions invoked by this administration. It is an unprecedented quantity of such sanctions. We'll be happy to detail.
I'd love to see the details, because I think much of what was done was done under previous authorities. There are more far-reaching authorities that the administration has, and I can't wait for them to use them so we can actually get to an Iran strategy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Senator Brasso.
Thank you very much.